Hello and welcome to this video where we're going to create a random quote generator, and we will be doing it inside a Blazor server app. So it will be a pretty simple project where we're just going to create a button that would say create quote, and then we're going to display the quote. So first of all, let's go and create a new project, and we're just going to create a Blazor server app, and then we say next, and it really doesn't matter what we call the project. So I'll just stick with this Blazor app 7 and say next. We then want to choose the framework, and in this project I'll just go with the .NET 6 because that is the long-term supported version. Soon we will be able to use the .NET 8, but until then we will just use the .NET 6, and then we will say create. So now when we are inside the project, we want to go and open the pages folder and go to the index.razor page, because this is our front page, and it will actually be the only page where we're going to create logic and markup with HTML. So we can just go and close all other tabs that would be opened. So the first thing is just to go and remove the HTML that is already in here. We still want to have the page title, but we could just go and say that this should be a quote generator. So the next two things we want to have in HTML is a button, and we could just say that the text inside should be generate quote, and underneath we want to have a h1 tag, which is going to display the current quote that we want to display. So we just want to say that it should display the variable called current quote. And of course we have not created this variable yet, but we will do that in the code section. So just go and create the code section. And here we can go and create the variable. So we can go and say public, and in this case it is a string, so we want to display it as a string. Then we can just go and take the name and copy and paste it in here, and say that when we begin the page, or when we load the page for the first time, it should just be empty. So we'll just start the page by having an empty current quote variable. And the next variable we want to have in here is actually an array of strings. So the array should contain all the quotes that we want to choose a random quote from. So we could go and say public and then say string and make it an array, and we will just call it for quotes and say that we want to have a new array in here, and then we can actually go and fill it out with a lot of quotes. So we just need no space here like this. So now I just inserted some quotes, and I also ended it up here with a semicolon. So the last thing we actually have to do is to make an onClick event on the button, and then make the function that will actually go in and take a random quote from our string array here. And that random quote should of course be saved inside the current quote variable, so it's going to be displayed up here. So let's go and create the new method. So I just want to go and create a public method that is going to be async, and it will return a task, and we will call it generate random quote. And the way that we are going to choose a random quote is by using the random class. So we will just go and create a new instance of the random class and save it inside our random variable. And the way that we can actually use it is by taking our quotes here, and then we want to target a random index inside our string array. So in this case it should be between 0 and 3. So when you have a string array, this is going to be the index of 0, this is going to be the index of 1 and 2 and 3. And we just want to have a random index every time we run this generate random quote. So what we can do is to take the random instance where we have this random class, where we can go and use some of the features that the random class is giving us. So what we can say is .next, and as you can see, if we hover over, we can see that it says that it returns a random integer that is within a specified range, and that is exactly what we want. And then you can see that the parameter should be an integer, both parameters should be integers, and you can also see that it should be a minimum value and a maximum value. And because we have an array of strings, we know that we will always start at 0, so that will be the minimum value. But then we can just go and take the quotes, which is our array of strings, and that actually have a helping property called length. So when we say quotes.length, we will automatically get the length in the array. And I actually do think that we also have to say -1, because as you can see, if we hover over this length, it actually tells us that for this to return 0, there should be no elements in the quotes. So this length will actually just go and give us 4 now, because we have 4 values in here. But because we're targeting an index, we are starting at 0. So let's say that this random next would go and say 4, because that the upper or the max value here could actually go and be 4. Then you can see that it will go and say from 0 to 4. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's actually 5 different choices that it could choose from. So that is the reason that we have to say -1. So it should work now. But we still need to update the UI. So what we have to do is to go and say that we want to invoke async. And what we want to invoke is the state has changed. This will basically just go and update the UI. And the reason we have to do that is because when we get a new value inside our current quote, we do also need to update the UI to actually display the new value that is inside the current quote. So now let's go and see if this is working. And if it's not working and there's some errors, we're going to fix it. So just run the application. And now we do have our button here, generate quote. So let's click it, and we can actually see nothing is happening right now. So let's go back and try to see what is going wrong. And of course nothing is happening because we haven't specified the onClick event on the button. So let's go and say onClick, and then take the generate random quote name here and go and put it in. And we also need an @ sign here in front of the onClick. So now let's try to run the application again, and let's see if it's working. So click on generate quote again, and now you can see we actually get a quote. Let's try to click it again, and we do get some random quotes now. So sometimes when you click it, it can of course be the same because we only have 4 quotes to choose from. But yeah, that's basically how you create the random quote generator inside a Blazor server app. It's really not that complicated, but it is a good project to learn Blazor a little bit more and also to train some more logic thinking. But that was it for this video. Go and have a nice day. Bye.